we're all so activated. Our nervous systems are all so fucking activated because of social media and everything that it's like, I think the best weapon to survive everything in 2025 is to work on your own nervous system regulation. And I think that's a privilege the three of us uniquely have because we've spent so much time working on our own nervous system regulation because the world's never going to be okay, right? Like it's a codependence thing. Like if you wait for the world to be okay for you to be okay, you're never going to be okay.
We're tired of the rules, tired of the shame, tired of pretending it's all the same. We're tired of the hustle that cuts us in two. We're tired but we're stronger. We're breaking on through. We're tired as fuck, but we won't back down. We're tired as fuck, still owning.
Welcome back into Tired AF. Today we are talking about how the entire country is being run like a freaking frat house that does not have a pitch deck. And we are just tired of all of this crazy masculine energy that is trying to dictate what's happening because the people that are hoarding power right now, specifically in the US, don't actually know what the fuck they're doing. And so we're just all living with the fallout of their ridiculous energy. So that is our focus today. We're kicking off this new year focused on the patriarchy and bringing it down. So welcome back in. How's everybody feeling today, ladies? How are you feeling about the ridiculous patriarchy?
Oh my God. I have a lot to say about the patriarchy, and I'll say it little by little over here, but
Yes.
I think the big thing that I want to say right now to get it started is that the men and women that are running our country right now represent the worst of patriarchy, the absolute worst. The places where patriarchy basically says men and women are never going to get along. Men are always going to be superior to women. Women should always be, in inferior roles, supporting whatever the men say. It is a poisoned well that they are pulling from. And I hate it. I had a whole conversation about patriarchy just earlier this weekend that I want to bring to bear here, but I definitely want to give people some time to add. Courtney, how are you feeling about it?
I feel like fuck the patriarchy. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, listen, it's like, it's so intertwined. And we're talking about it like a little bit through the lens of like a frat house and like the Silicon Valley bro energy because they're running our country right now. We didn't elect them, but they're the ones that are actually running our country, these billionaires. And I'm sorry, I come from the Silicon Valley. I've been in boardrooms with these twats. Okay. Like they are not smart. They are high on all kinds of drugs. Like they have so much money handed to them. Like it's insane to me that we're all pretending that this is actually a meritocracy and that the structure, the patriarchal structure is what allows that to happen. And I mean, I get pegged as a man hater all the time, which is fine, but it's like, I don't hate men individually. I hate the system because it harms all of us. Right. It harms men, it harms women, it harms all of us. And we're also being pitted against each other in this idea that like, I'm seeing a lot more out there, people talking about the matriarchy. People misunderstand that matriarchy is the opposite of patriarchy. And we're just like doing this like pitting of the sexes against, and it's like, no, it's a completely different system, right? Like it's not, it's not one group oppressing or having control over another. Matriarchy like centers the child.
I want to get my autistic academic brain in this for just a minute. Actually, literally just looked up the dictionary definition of patriarchy. The initial definition is a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced through the male line. The second one is a system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. Note that in no place does that say a system in which men are superior and women are inferior, or in which men are the only people that hold power, or that it's all about men. And nothing in there says anything about man hating either. Right. And I think that's really important. The conversation I had earlier this weekend was somebody telling me that they work in a female-dominated industry. And I said, patriarchy, it's a mess. And he said, yeah, and matriarchy is no better. And I said, wait. We don't have any
Right.
systems. We have no systems in our world right now that are matriarchies. So we have no idea what matriarchy isn't better or worse. We don't know. We have no
Right.
clue. We don't have any information on that. What we do know is that patriarchy sets up both sexes for failure.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
know enough about this. I think Mel is the one that has helped me educate, and also because we all get locked in our own lanes too, where I'm like very focused, but we have to zoom out where it's like patriarchy and like white supremacy, there's like a lot of overlap
Yeah.
in
Oh,
that, right?
absolutely.
And that like control, that system of control and domination.
Yep.
Right. Thank you for giving the definition. I meant to look that up so that we could make sure to have it. But the reality is that like many things, yes, like
I
many
will
things,
always look up the definition. I'm sorry.
like many things, the definition or the purpose, initial purpose of a lot of these things is always going to be changed, right? To benefit whomever wants to be in charge. And so when we think about the patriarchy, yes, it sets up both men and women because it has become this system of pitting people against each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like when you want to layer in Christianity. I was raised in a Christian community. I am not a Christian. I haven't been for many years. Even if we go with like the moral stories of the Bible, and that's yay, what we want to believe, the patriarchy, the system where men need to be in charge of everything, then dictated what stories get to be relayed, get to make people look, specifically women, look however they need to, make themselves, of course, look better. And that's the problem that happens. A lot of people bitch about the patriarchy. That's the problem with the patriarchy, is that it has taught all of us, men, women, and everything in between, that men are more important and need to be the focus of everything that we're doing. And women are like this added on piece that's there for support and cheerleading, but there's little value. Sandra, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, to be very clear, it's only a specific type of man, right?
Right.
It is masculinity writ large, which is what we see on the White House X feed and what we see even on the White House pages and, and some of the like kind of, I don't know, ass kissing behavior that we have.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of a nicer way to say that, but I just couldn't do it. But
that's the right one.
It's not men. It is men who meet a specific stereotype of man.
Right.
Right. And that is big, bold, brash, unemotional, uncaring. White, I think, is very important. It is very much this typical man that is in power, and anything else should not be in power. And we are directly seeing that happen. We're seeing women get fired. We're seeing people of color get fired. We're seeing transgender people get let go. And we're seeing them being erased from like the Smithsonian, from, websites, from everything else. And do not kid yourself that that's any different than book burning.
Right.
No.
And to your point, Sandra, I think, and to tie back in what Courtney was mentioning, that yes, at the top ends up being that very specific, wealthy, white male that needs to be the one in charge. But the system itself, though stemming from that, still filters down to make men through the layers, right? As we talk about issues of privilege, still more important, right? Even like the poorest, least educated male or male in general is going to have a little more privilege than their female counterpart, right? And so it isn't just, and the problem is, and Courtney mentioned this, the problem is that it isn't just this fucked up system. It is the way that it mechanically runs on a day-to-day basis. The problem is that all of us who have been raised in a patriarchy by people who were raised in a patriarchy, by people who were raised in a patriarchy, we've all come to believe in this system to some degree, even when we're fighting against it, even when we know that it's wrong, because it's all we've ever seen. It's all we've ever known. And so until we have these types of conversations where we're looking at like the layers of patriarchy and how it affects all of us collectively, how we're all getting parts of it wrong, it's never going to change, because we can be mad at rich white men all day long. They're not going to go away, right? We have to then step back and say, well, what can we do as a Black gay woman who isn't rich by any stretch of the imagination? What then can I do? Because the patriarchy tells me I can't do anything. I have no power. I should have no voice or no say. And because that type of messaging has been ingrained in every part of our society, it makes it that much harder for us, anyone who's not at the top, to start to make those changes. And that's why we need to have these conversations.
Yeah, and why we need to have something like this podcast. What you're talking about, Mel, is what we mean when we're talking about systemic problems, problems that are built into the system of our existence, right? To the point that we don't even see them anymore.
Right.
We don't know. We think that things are naturally this way. One of the things I asked my students when I used to teach, I would ask them, how did you learn how to kiss? How did you learn how to kiss? Did you learn from watching your parents? Did you learn from watching other people? Did you learn from watching movies? And a lot of people say, well, I learned from practice. They're like, well, what did you learn? Where did you learn how to practice? Right? Kissing is not something that it's just the natural way in which people engage, right?
Right.
In other countries, people kiss each other's hello all the time. We don't do that because it's not part of our system. And it would be seen as weird in that way. But it is a systemic issue. It's not just, we are all painted by the patriarchy.
Right. It's not just a personal reaction or a personal failing. And it's also not just the conditioning that Mel was talking about, because that's a big part of it, right? We've all been raised in conditions. We have the internalized misogyny and the all of it, right? Like all of us. And that is true. But even when you do the work to try to deconstruct and you become more aware of these things, the reality, to Sandra's point, is this is still the system. Right. And Mel, like, these billionaires are not going away. So it's like, all right, well, then if that's the case, part of this is survival. So for a lot of us, that have tended to veer off into shame for certain things, I'm like, I want to just call out that, like, there's no shame in needing to survive. But the important part for me is that we have these conversations that identify what we're doing to survive and what we can do to move beyond just survival, which is what you're talking about. So what are the parallel systems that we're going to create then? And how do we do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, that's the work for all of us. We all have to look at, starting individually, what can I do differently? How can I show up differently? How can I educate myself differently so that I see other perspectives that I would not have seen before? Because there isn't a matriarchy system that we can compare and contrast. We understand the theory. We understand that community should come first, but there aren't images of that. There isn't teachings of that we are shown on a regular basis. And so, it's incumbent on all of us to, again, step back and say, what can I do differently? For me, I do my best to show up authentically, show up proudly as a woman, as Black, as gay, as all of these things, so that people can see this person who doesn't fit the mold of who is a leader is out here leading her ass off, right?
Yeah.
We're having conversations and bringing in community and creating community like we're doing here, showing that there doesn't need to be one person at the head to have something successful. Look what happens when you have a president who supposedly is running the country and running it into the ground. Look what happens when he surrounds himself by people who are just like him. Look at what's happening versus, I wonder what it's like to have community that are equal, that are sharing, that are supportive of one another, and taking those ideas and moving forward together.
Yeah. I think one of the most powerful weapons that patriarchy has, that our system has, our system is not just patriarchal. There's a lot of other things. It's racist. It's, a whole bunch of other things. But But I think one of the most important weapons that it has is the propaganda system, right? We are in a place right now where the billionaires own most of our media, where our entertainment media is going that same direction and is owned by people in that direction. And it's hard to understand if it's not something that you have studied, that literally everything that you see, everything that you read, everything that you perceive in our culture is a part of that systemic propaganda.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we are doing here is we're trying to stand up to that propaganda, is we're saying there are other voices. There are other things being heard. And this is something that's been a part of my career since I was in grad school. In graduate school, gender studies was one of my minor areas. I definitely looked into it. I helped start a women's studies program at my school. We've been working towards one of the things that we did there was create a class for people who, for whatever reason, had difficulty with regular writing classes. So people who are deaf, people who are dyslexic, people who, were raised, homeschooled. Believe it or not, those are people that have a difficult time, or people who are raised in inner city schools as well, because those are poorly funded and often have to focus on things other than education.
Yeah.
And, all of that, we built courses on that. And the whole point was, look, there is another way to perceive that. And then this is something I want to hear from both of you about, is the problem there is perception, right? We don't believe other people have a different perception than we do and a different experience than we do. And that is a big problem in our culture.
It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will say, if you look around to see, this administration is the best example of how to know the problem with the system. Look and see the things that they are targeting to get rid of, to cancel, to end. Look at the programming. When you talk about DEI programming, you talk about erasing Black, gay, any non-white history from books. They don't want it taught in schools. They want people's names, heroes' names stripped from history books and from museums and things like that. The books that are being banned, all of these things, all the laws that they're trying to change, women's autonomy, all of those pieces are the pieces that tell the story that we need to hear. They understand that in order for us to look great, we need to get rid of this ugly past. We need to not talk about those things. We need to just promote the best version of white supremacy, essentially, of whiteness out there, so that people go back to thinking that this is the way, this is the standard that we all need to start living at. When you look at what's being eliminated and what they don't want us talking about, those are all the pieces that will change the world if we focus on them.
Yeah.
And have. I mean, in my lifetime, women have been able to get their own actual financial accounts, both bank accounts and credit cards. Women can now buy houses without having their dad or their brother to sign on it. Women can, that's not that far away, people. That's in my lifetime.
That's the 80s.
Right?
That's crazy.
Like gay marriage is something. Guess what? Marriage is not consent anymore. No matter what RFK Jr. wants to say, marriage is not consent. That is not legal. Sexual harassment laws, all of these things have come about because we did listen to other people's perspectives. And now we have a group in power who says, stop listening to them. Stop listening and you won't have a problem. This is like everybody I know who talks about, as a matter of fact, in part, my family too, will point to people that basically say, if you stop talking about race, if you stop talking about sex, it won't be a problem.
Right.
And, like you're the one talking about it all the time. You're the one making a big deal out
it's like
of it.
if we don't report on COVID deaths, then they didn't die. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't fucking work that way. And I mean, the reality is that, Mel, to your point, when you look at what they're targeting, you can tell exactly what they're scared of. You can tell what they think is dangerous by what they're going after. Right? Like, that's very, very clear. I mean, they laid it all out in Project 2025. We know that. But it's also, I think it's incumbent upon those of us who have the privilege, the position, the bandwidth, the exposure to be like, you want us to sit down and be quiet? Oh, I'm going to stand up and get fucking louder and weirder and way more extra.
Yeah.
Way more.
I used to be much muchier, and I'm going to go back to being much muchier, as it says in Alice in Wonderland.
And so it's like, this only works. The shit that they're doing only works if women allow it. And I'm also talking specifically to white women.
Yeah. I want to be very clear on something. Black women have been carrying the load for so goddamn long. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. If we would just listen to Black women, this world would be so different.
Have you seen the discourse? I'm going to take us off on a little tangent here. Are you ready? Okay. Buckle up.
Yes.
Have you seen the discourse right now on LinkedIn? There was a whole thing. Women, big content creators on LinkedIn have been talking about how the algorithm has changed and women are getting buried in the algorithm and the bias is coming through. They've changed the algorithm. So there was this thing a few weeks ago or a month ago. I don't know when it was exactly, but a bunch of women changed their gender on LinkedIn. Right. And they were like, oh, my reach exploded. It was this like social experiment thing that happened. People changed their pictures and they were like, I didn't change anything I posted. I just changed my gender in my picture. And it's like, well, yes. And right. Like this is very complicated because yes, there's a gender bias. Absolutely. But also like you're jumping onto a trend and you're talking about something that is, so you're kind of like creating this self-fulfilling prophecy in the loop. And it was mostly white female content creators.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I'm sorry, Black female content creators were talking about this 5 years ago. So, you know what I mean? Like there was a change. I can't remember if it was 2020 or what, but like Black LinkedIn had a big moment. Do you remember when it was like blowing up and then the algorithm changed? And
because like anything, we're only going to let you do as much as we're going to let you do. And once we realize what's happening, the powers that be that Sandra mentions, that owns everything, is like, okay, enough of that. Okay.
Yeah. So now it's just interesting to see this dialogue where it's like that these women are shining a light on this gender bias issue. And I'm like, this is not a competition. Like I'm watching some of these comments in the threads going back and forth where it's like, you have people that are like, it's like watching so many white people wake up in 2025 to like how fucked our society is and how racist parts of our country. I'm like, have you not been listening to, we're the last ones to realize this, you guys, the last ones.
Yeah. The fact that we're feeling it now, the canaries in the coal mine are all dead.
Yeah.
Right.
We have,
and in some fairness, I think to everyone who is just getting there or just really starting to realize the slope that we're on, it's difficult. There's so many traumatic things that happen every day, it seems like now and we're hearing all of it right now, that the world is so small because of social media. We're hearing all these things and we only have so much capacity to hang on to all the trauma and process it. And several years ago, and every now and again I will do it, I will turn on Fox News and I will think to myself, if this is all I ever heard, right? If this is the only source of information that I'm tuned into and I am surrounded by people who are only getting this source of information about the world, I would have such a different perspective. Now that's not an excuse because
that's a choice.
All the
right?
Other channels.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, but it takes
Did you say
time. Like you have to be ready to hear something else. We all have to be in a space where we're ready to ask questions and to want to hear something else. And so again, I'm not making an excuse, but there is a reality that I think we also have to look at where we're saying that, yes, there are tons of people who are just in this little crazy bubble where they believe what's coming from high and they can't hear anything else. And we have to pace ourselves, right? How much energy are we going to spend trying to open their eyes? But we also have to recognize that that's a reality, that there a lot of people are not hearing anything else until it affects them directly. I mean, if you think about what's happening in other countries since the beginning of time, the atrocities that happen, we don't talk about those in the US. We're not burdened by those types of things that are happening across the world because we don't hear about it. It's not put in our face. It's not on our news. And so unless you are seeking those things out, we don't know about it. So we can't even be angry about it. But now that it's in your face, that's when it becomes the issue. Once you start to see it and you hear these voices and you see how it's touching you, your family, your community, your neighbors, then that's when it's your responsibility to now, as my mom used to say, shit or get off the pot. Like, you have to do something, or don't get upset when people call you on your bullshit for not listening.
Exactly. I mean, the reason I said ish as far as this being a choice is that like it's only a choice so long as we have the ability to get educated, right? And the ability to seek out our own information. Right now, we have the illusions of those. We have the illusion of freedom of information, and we have the illusion of education. But as the situation in Oklahoma has just shown, where a teacher basically asks students to write a topic about gender, and there's one woman wrote a piece that was nothing. The only thing she cited was the Bible. Right. And basically said things are demonic and so forth and so on. And the teacher got suspended for giving them a 0 because it didn't deal with the topic and it didn't show any research. Typical academic. That is a very, I mean, I would do the same thing. If I were teaching that class, I'd be like, look, this does not deal with the topic. It's not covering the prompt. And this wasn't a personal opinion essay.
Right. Like if you didn't do the assignment, you didn't do the assignment.
And then this lady got a commendation from the Republicans in the Oklahoma Congress. So we have the illusion of education, right? We have the illusion that we're being educated in elementary, junior high, and high school, but all of that is propaganda. I still remember when I was 19 years old, took a first history class in college and found out that we were sterilizing. We, American people, were sterilizing Native American women on, like governmentally up through the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, our own Supreme Court about 100 years ago voted in favor of eugenics.
Yeah.
These are things that people don't know. They don't know, and they don't find. How many people know about the Tuskegee experiments? How many people know about the Tulsa Race Massacre? How many people know about these things? They don't, because they can't find them because we have the illusion of information freedom, not the reality.
And I know you're right intellectually, but my emotional response to that as a millennial whose father still watches, that's a fucking choice. That's a fucking choice. Okay? You have a daughter. You have people around you you are getting other information in your ear. And I'm not just picking on I know I'm not alone, right? Like he's not a Trump supporter. Okay. I'm putting that out there publicly. Not a Trump supporter, but still the vestigial habit of Fox from he's in his 70s. Right.
Yeah.
So that's like, it is just a habit. And it does, to your point, it like rots the brain and it like puts you in this bubble. But I'm like, tell me I'm just being emotional, where I'm like, but that is still just kind of isn't it still kind of a choice?
Yeah, I mean,
again, once you know, it becomes a choice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so obviously he has been exposed just by knowing you. I don't need to know the rest of his life. Just by knowing you, he has been exposed to other perspectives. And so, yeah, I mean, it does become a choice. It does become what's going to be harder, easier, but we all have to make those choices. There are certainly things I think each one of us could say, you know what, I know about some bullshit that I probably should care more about. I just don't have the energy for it. So even in that, understanding that we all have to make a variety of choices about what we're willing to take in and how much we're willing to allow ourselves to try and change.
Yeah.
And at what cost.
And
I don't
we all
know
have
the
a different
cost.
capacity, right? Like, and that's the thing where it's like, listen, he's all, again, we are great, but it's like you reach a certain point too where you're like, I had this conversation with my mom a couple years ago when I was like having some breakthroughs in therapy, and I got my ADHD diagnosis and started to pull at that thread, and she started to kind of look back and be like, shit, now I'm reflecting on some stuff on myself. And I was like, well, and she goes, well, I don't know. I'm 70 something. I don't know if I want to start pulling at that thread right now. And I'm like, you know what? I
Yeah.
respect that.
Yeah.
That's a totally reasonable choice to make. Like, we only have so much bandwidth, and I get that.
Right.
So it's just I'm just sharing. It's a tension I struggle with, where I'm like, I
Well,
want to be empathetic, and
That's real.
And
That's real.
I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. It's really hard. And our media plays to divisiveness. Our media tries to make things divisive because that gets people to click on things, that gets people to buy things, it gets people to say things. A great way, and I think this is really, I mean, this goes all the way back to Socrates, right? Is rather than trying to tell people something, ask, reflect on it.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, like, I had an uncle of mine who basically said, I think that you have the wrong concept on race. Have you heard of Candace Owens? And of course I had heard of Candace Owens. And yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And of course I had heard
She's
of
not our
Candace Owens.
spokeswoman.
And
we don't claim her. Sorry. We don't claim her.
Just like Sheryl Sandberg does not represent white women. You know,
Right.
Candace Owens does not represent Black women. These are people that are making money by taking controversial stances. And that is uncomfortable.
It goes all the way back to our main topic of like, these are basically all grifters taking advantage of this patriarchal system that is domination and control, right? Like, you're playing into that system, especially as a Black woman, especially as a woman of color, especially as anybody who has less. It's like, I find that grosser that you are playing into the grift just for that payoff when you know how fucking harmful that is.
But I had much better success with my uncle when first I was like, dude, you don't even know anything about her, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, you know, how did you come across this? Where did you get that information? How is she backing that information up? And my uncle, who is an engineer, a very intelligent man, suddenly had to question that. And it was a couple of years before he came back and said something to me and said, you know, I don't think that I really think that she's very valid anymore. And I'm like, I think that's great. I'm glad that you did the research. But when I pushed, it did no good.
Totally.
Sure.
When I invited them in and asked questions and really asked questions, not, well, why do you think that?
Right.
But
Like,
more
in good faith. You were actually asking in good faith.
Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, sometimes that works really well. And sometimes, man, my attitude still comes across. And so it doesn't always work. But I think that is a good way, is get people to challenge their own assumptions. Remember, these assumptions are systemic. These are things that go down to the heart. People believe that kissing is something that has happened since the beginning of time, will happen exactly the same way since the end of time. Never matter that the way people kiss in the 40s in movies is very different from how they do in 2025. They think that it's just natural, that this is just normal, because they've never had anything to question that. And that's a comfortable place to be in. I had a professor once that we were arguing about something, and he stopped me and he said, Sandra, are you scared? And I was like, you know what? I kind of am. He said, are you scared shitless yet? And I said, I don't know. He was like, well, when you're scared shitless, that's when you know you're about to learn something.
Yeah.
And I've taken that and run with it my whole life. Yeah. My goal has always been to shake my own foundations and to help other people shake their own. I'm not trying to shake theirs. Right. I'm giving them the opportunity to shake their own.
Yeah. And you can't, right? I mean, we spend as a society a lot of time talking about what people have done to us emotionally. And the reality is, it's about what we have allowed emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part, we all have, again, choices on how we want to internalize those things. And as someone who has grown up as the token Black person for most of the racist white people that have circled my life, being open to just what you're saying, Sandra, asking those questions, you know, I recognize that you can't shame people into change, right? You have to allow them to be in a space where they can hear it, because you can't hear it when you're just lambasting somebody, right? When you are just beating them over the head with information. And that's the problem that happens on social media. People want to put facts and figures and, you know, but that's not going to move the needle for people. You have to create a space for people to change. And I think, you know, I also just wanted to say that we talk a lot about courage, and we'll continue to talk about being courageous and putting yourself out there and moving forward. But we also have to recognize that based on a lot of factors, your levels of privilege, you know, as you walk through the world, especially, there are barriers, so many barriers that get put in our way, that being courageous, you know, for me can feel pretty easy. But for other people who look like me or who live like me or who love like me, it's not, right? And so we have to also be mindful. And this is something that I've been learning more to be mindful about, is that I want to encourage people and push people as far as they are ready and capable of moving, but not any further, right? It's not for us. And this podcast certainly is not trying to make you be somebody that you're not ready to be. It's about creating space and opportunity for you to decide that you're ready for something else. And when you face those barriers and when you get that pushback and you experience those microaggressions that maybe I haven't experienced or Sandra and Courtney haven't experienced, that you recognize that that's valid. And that is a reason that maybe you have paused, that you haven't been able to change and be courageous and hear these other sides and sit with that and process through that.
Yeah. And I think there's, just to add on to that, something, and a little bit of therapy speak from my learnings over the last several years, because I've had to do a bunch of trauma healing and I hate that phrase, but you know, whatever. I had to do it. And a lot of that for me was like nervous system regulation. I'm somebody with ADHD and my nervous system was so out of whack for so long and I didn't really realize it. And it was causing more problems. We can get into that, a whole other episode around that. But I think, Mel, to your point, and Sandra too, is that when somebody is challenged, right, or like directly confronted in any way, or just information dumped on, it puts them into that fight or flight mode. We're all so activated. Our nervous systems are all so fucking activated because of social media and everything, that it's like, I think the best weapon to survive everything in 2025 is to work on your own nervous system regulation. And I think that's a privilege the three of us uniquely have, because we've spent so much time working on our own nervous system regulation, because the world's never going to be okay, right? Like that's a codependence thing. Like if you wait for the world to be okay for you to be okay, you're never going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's like understanding that not everybody's nervous system is capable and that puts them in fight or flight. Like I get that. And I think like I'm just calling that out as like a real physiological thing that happens.
Yeah.
No,
and I
that's
think
valid.
one other privilege that we share, and I know we're probably getting around the end of this, but one of the other privileges that we share is that we all live in groups of people in communities where change is possible and even lauded. So if you live in a culture where if you change your belief system or if you change the way you think about something, you are ostracized, it is far more dangerous for you to even address these issues, even consider these issues than it is, than it is for people who live in a society, in a place where it's okay to think differently and to change. We don't give a lot of room for people to change. And this is something that, I mean, I hate to bring this up, but cancel culture, in my opinion, has gotten this really wrong, in that if somebody does something wrong and you're just like, that's it, you're out forever, we're never talking to you again, you are persona non grata. How do people grow? How do people learn?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Now, there's definitely a lot in there that I think needed to happen. The Me Too movement, and I think a lot of stuff needed to happen. There's a lot of stuff in that needed to happen. It's just that, like so many other things, it gets taken down to its bare essence, stripped of all of the important parts, and then we only keep the part that says, bleh.
That says what?
Bleh.
This is a scientific term. That's an academic term.
I love that. Yes.
It's the part you can sell.
Yeah,
right?
no,
It's the part
totally.
that you can
It's
get
the
out there and
grift.
say, look
It's
at
the
how loud
grift.
and mean I am.
At the end of the day, it's whatever's going to sell and move more product.
Whatever is going to let you make an AI video of flying a plane and pouring shit all over your people. Yeah.
I love
God
it.
damn.
Thanks for stopping on that visual. I appreciate it. So that I'm going to transition that into our last fucks.
Okay.
Maybe we should call it our last shits for this
Our last
particular
shits.
episode.
What do we give a shit about now?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Who'd like to go first? Any takers?
Well, I would
Okay.
say, like, my last fuck, like, I complain a lot about men in power. I complain a lot about systems. I like to complain. It makes me feel better sometimes. I do.
Yeah.
But the last fuck, what I'm holding on to, what I feel inspired by, and what is driving me is this new word I learned when I was reading an article the other day about women going out on their own outside of corporate and starting their own like solopreneurship stuff as consultants or coaches. And they're creating little, they're calling them consulting collectives, where it's like a few, like 2 to 4 women that have their own businesses, but then they like work in these little kind of unofficial collectives where they're not a full business, but they like support each other in their projects and in the work that they're doing. And I'm just like, I'm going to give my fucks to that, of starting to see the seeds of new parallel systems, because that's really exciting.
I love that. Yes.
It's kind of parallel to what we're doing.
Yeah,
maybe that might be why it resonated.
We might be
I might
on
have
the cutting edge of that.
Yes. What we're growing into. Stay tuned. Yes. Sandra?
I'm going to say that my last fuck today is independent media. Yeah, there are so many people on Substack right now and in other places. I only mention Substack because it's the one that I know of, and if there are others that you know of, please bring them up when you talk, because I don't want to like give all of the power to them. But
But we
there's a
do
lot
want you
of
to follow us on Substack.
Yeah.
So follow us.
and everywhere else.
We are
all the places.
and everywhere
AF
else, please.
Substack. Yes.
And there's a lot of good
Go
shit
ahead.
on Substack, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, there's a lot of other good stuff that's out there, but independent media, journalists that are not attached to any of the big media conglomerates, are really covering some important stuff right now. I will say, I'll just put one out there that does its damnedest to stay as impartial as possible, and that is the 1440. And you can sign up to get their emails. I think that is a great one where you can start and you can just get the information. And they are finding support in, again, parallel systems. They're finding it through Patreon. They're finding it through their Substacks. They're finding it through, Kickstarters, anything along those lines, anything that doesn't have to deal with a system where everything is being conglomerated under billionaires.
Yeah, we'll put in the show notes a couple of our favorites.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
So that y'all can check out some of our favorite independent news sources, because I know we all have some of our own. So we'll share them in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Let's see. My last fuck I am giving to Elphaba, really, to Cynthia Erivo. So since Wicked for Good came out, and I did go to see it with my grandkids for Thanksgiving, but since it came out, obviously there's going to be all these interviews for eternity, right, about the movie. But I've seen so many interviews with her, specifically other Black women interviewing her and asking her like real questions, right? Not just wizardy kind of questions. But I pick her because she has done so much in that role, and her input into what that character looked like as this green woman, right? But bringing in her Blackness to the character and really showing that strength of, as she shows up in real life, showing the strength of what Black women can do, how we can be engaged, their dedication to their work, and just that strength and courage that both her character showed, that she portrayed, and her in her everyday life. I mean, there's all these clips of her like constantly putting her physical body in the way to protect
I've seen those.
other
she's
folks, like
fierce.
more than once. Like, she's such a mama bear. I love that. I related to this topic, I wanted to give her my last fuck because her character, Elphaba, went out of their way to show up courageously, despite the fact that the entire world was believing the man behind the curtain, who was a lunatic doing zero. And that is, and that is what I think we all need to remember, that when you've seen behind the curtain and you see the reality, it's so important, if you can, to share that voice. Everyone may not listen to you, but there are those who will eventually. And so be true.
And
That's
see my
awesome.
earlier statement that the men in power in those boardrooms, they're twats. They're not that smart.
Yes. So
let's end
So I
with the
think that-
twat. Yeah.
yes. And we'll end with twat energy. Yes.
Mel loves my potty mouth.
I love
Hey,
it.
I mean,
do.
I haven't done a lot of cursing yet, but just wait.
Yeah, it happens. Ebbs and flows. All right, so that's it for today. We want to thank you so much for listening, hanging out with us again. We really want to hear your thoughts on the patriarchy and the systems that are crazy and how you're feeling about the state of the world and all the things. So make sure to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to this video and to the podcast if you're listening. You can find us anywhere that you listen to your favorite voices. So make sure that you're following us and make sure to tune into all the next episodes that are coming up. We're so excited for 2026. Bye, everyone.
Inside.